Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your very, very detailed presentation. Many of it I did not understand until very. I started thinking that I'll start learning because I love this country. Thank you very much, Minister, for you being elaborating and extending what the First Lady was talking about. And as always, Dr. Rashid, it's always good to hear new thoughts, new ideas, and the way you put those ideas in a very lucid. But above all, my friend, what he did, many of what I wanted to talk about is already presented. So that's very less I have on my slides. Thank you so much for doing a wonderful job. Really, 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 apt way of presenting what is needed now. What I really wanted to do for the topic which was given to me is to start with a context first. It was in the month of March, 14th March 2020, when the COVID started. COVID was extending, and I picked up a phone because I love this country, and I talked to Dr. Rashid. What's happening in your country? Right? Those were the first two cases reported in one of the islands, and I say, what's happening here? Is there anything which we can do? Knowing very well that everywhere the capacity was limited, not much was available for us. We were struggling in terms of beds, and my own brother was on ventilator for good 15-20 days in Saudi Arabia. So I knew how bad it was, and I pick up phone and speak with them as to what's happening. He said, I am definitely worried about what's happening with the health of people, but I'm also worried about the children, what's going to happen. So that just talks about the educator's mind. So a big round of applause for an educator like him and you, all of you, for managing through a difficult time. It was easy to sort of flip from class to a technology, and we always swing between technology good and technology bad. But that was the technology came as a boon for us because we were not letting the learning loss to happen. So as we talk about technology, I think it had played many roles historically in the past, and it will play many roles in the future. But I think important thing for us as an educator or as a teacher is hard for us to see how do we really get the best from the technology. So what I really wanted to start is with a quote, which I think all of you can read it. But it's only alluding and suggesting that technology can only be enabler. It cannot, it's always the teacher, it is always that human which is really going to be, leading it off through the tool as technology. So I think that's just really what this quote talks about. What I'm going to talk today is three things, and I was given a teacher and technology and collaboration, but I thought needs to be in context. So I said, what's happening today in the age of technology? That was the first thing which I wanted to really start with. What's the learner? Who is that learner? 21st century learner or 21st century, children? Or what's that which we need to do to catalyze this whole change which is happening, and how can we use that? And some of what we were talking in the lunchtime as well. What are those skills, right? Are we started thinking about those skills? Are we looking at some? And these are all what we see. So none of it is, I'm saying that this is going to happen because none of us know answer. So this is something what we're seeing and what we're observing, in our own ecosystem in different geography, considering the fact that all of us work in different countries and different places. So this, if only look at pictures for some time, there's a humane side and then there is a technology side. So if you close your hand, looks like that there's a little bit of scare which you see on the left side if you look at that hand coming. But then there is a real care and empathy that other hand is actually saying. That's just where we are at this point in time. Technology is coming like tsunami. 2000 to 2020, if you do map, that 2 decades has really a civilizational change in terms of technology. 2000 when the Google started, right, in terms of scaling. 2002, 2003 when all other platforms like Facebook and other platforms started scaling in terms of becoming a social platform. Then comes the Twitter, then comes the Instagram, then comes all platform today. When I sit with you, and how many of you use Viber as the communication tool? How many of you use WhatsApp as a communication tool? So there are 2 communication tools on all of your form, and you get up in the morning to see whether my Viber message last time what I had sent, somebody has answered it now. So we might say that children need to be away from a technology. You are not getting away from a technology. So how are we saying that technology can be a curse? It's coming like a tsunami to you, and we need to see how to manage that. If we are waking up with the technology in our hand, and our children are waking up with the technology in hand, how are you actually saying that I can close my eyes and be away from it? It's not possible. It's too late for us to say that it is completely. So what this is reflecting, that is there a way that touch of both can be actually fundamentally defined? Is that touch a touch of care? Is that touch of compassion, touch of emotion, touch of empathy, which we can actually do? And that's the role of a teacher. So in the ecosystem of education, you have a role of that child, which is a 21st century child, the educator today who is actually navigating them through the whole journey, parent, who's become a very, very important stakeholder of the part of education, and there are partners who want to be actually working with you to support through this navigation. Now, what's really happened in the last few decades is that information has become pervasive, right? I was sitting in the guest house and looking at the 9 Mbps. Imagine 9 Mbps, I can do anything, right? So I can actually start coding, and code starts working with me. So, these days, if you're watching technology, there is a very active discussion on a platform which is just coming called ChatGPT, OpenAI platform. So what is ChatGPT? This is roll forwarding. ChatGPT is a platform where you can go and ask any question and it answers you that question. So I started saying, okay, my son is going to US, and my wife has given me a task to write an application for it. Let me see what can I do. So Dartmouth application I had to actually apply for. I said, okay, I have given my thoughts to that application. Let me put it on ChatGPT. ChatGPT started curating, and then output of that, when I started seeing it, I couldn't believe that I can actually do this in not more than 60 minutes, which I have spent on that platform. And roll forward, in that ED exam, he gets the call from the college, and I think a lot of it, he says that the application and the essay was very good. Now, you see how exactly that ChatGPT is becoming a part of my life. So I think next time when I go strategize for my organization, I'll again go to that platform to ask that question. So therefore, it is important for us to see that these changes which are happening within the ecosystem of that learner, teacher, and the partners, how could we actually get the best out of it? And within that, teacher becomes a very important role. Now, for a moment, if you go back, a few years, perhaps the years when we were young, right? The teacher walks in the classroom, and the general expression, here is a knowledge walking in. Somebody who has the knowledge, right? That's how we said, oh, she will come or he will come and tell us what needs to be done, right? Teacher today walks in the knowledge, everybody knows, I know what she's going to tell. Right? Teacher knows, all the students know that, I know what teacher is going to tell me, and I know every information I have. So then the teacher who's walking in the classroom is also going with this, whole conceived notion that if I walk inside the classroom, I'll talk about it because my children knows about it. Look at the teacher's plight, right? Forget about children. Children is a powerful guy. He's sitting and saying, I know everything, right? I know things which this person is going to talk about, or this man is going to talk about. But the teacher is again walking with the feeling that everybody knows about it. Now, what could be the role of the teacher? In that setup, and that's when people start defining, redefining what that teacher looks like. Now, I'm going to change course, but before I change the course, think about yourself and say that is that role changing less of a knowledge representative, but more of a curator of that knowledge? That can I play with knowledge and make sure that I play with that child in the classroom, rather than keeping that child different and I'm being a teacher. So that's one change which we clearly see. Now, also, always there is a discussion on this whole technology being pervasive and emotions and empathy is going away, given the fact that technology was very hard, during the COVID times, people are using that. So issues such as mental issues, which are real issues, right? So I think all of us have really seen it happening in children. We've had a detailed discussion during the lunchtime. But even with that, technology is not going away. You have to make sure that those situations which we are dealing with, this technology can really be a help in terms of solving many of those issues. So what I've tried doing is that I've tried plotting some of what is happening, what technology is really doing for you. So anything which is cognitively repetitive is actually getting replaced. So many jobs in the future would actually will get replaced. For example, the essay. I was writing an essay, right? I don't need an essay to be writing. Or I don't need a consultant to write an essay for me. That ChatGPT is going to do that job for me. So that's another context which you have. If the roles which are really getting, redefined, and if those jobs which are, repetitive are getting changed, so what's the context for us? So here what we tried doing is, and again the 2 decades reflection, is the fact that if you look at the left side of that, those are the kind of things which we're working, typewriters and the phones. That roll forward now, it's actually going in terms of a more advanced, more collaborative, more sort of tools being used in the classroom. That's the kind of changing landscape which we're seeing in the teacher's life today. Now, if you to have teacher, looking at technology one side changing, also the change happening in terms of policies, trying to bring in the assessment-centric, higher stake assessment-centric intervention. Also the fact that emotional challenges happening. Also the fact that the parental demands are going up. That 45 minutes for the teacher is very difficult. And who understands that? The parent does not, because every parent wants a child to be the star. Every child wants to be demanding. Every policy makers want to have my stake, my country should be the highest in the every parameters. So it is not easy. And I'm with you, and all of us are with you, teachers. That role of teacher is the most important and most challenging role today in the society, if I may say that. And that's one role technology will never replace. Because that starts with empathy, that starts with care, that starts with relating to the child. Right? So therefore, the point which I'm saying that while children are demanding, parents are demanding, policies are demanding, geopolitical scenario is demanding, there are a lot of unknowns in the market, but teachers again have only 45 minutes to even do this kind of conversation, right? You go and do all of those posters and make sure everybody is sitting at the right places, etc. All of these teachers are doing it. So I think it's a difficult, let's at least acknowledge that it is not an easy job. It is a job which has really become complex. It is a job which is a generational changes being, put in. It is a job where the demanding parents are coming. It's a job which is also with a lot of uncertain things in the future. What's the job which is there in the future? So you are dealing with lots of those, unknowns at this point in time. Now, let me take myself away from a teacher to a learner. Now, what's happening in learner's life? The learner's life is also going through a lot of changes. So lots of new set of platforms every time. So my younger one, and this is my again my personal example. She was a sports girl, so played for a long time and never had all Instagram etc. on her phone. But one day she gets into Instagram in grade 9, and the life of the child changed. Now she says that why am I in that party? I'm not there. My picture is not uploaded in that party. Now that 4 hours of that tennis player who was under 16 rank is changing in front of our eyes. That I am not there and there. I'm not there here. I'm not there here. How do you actually explain that? That's what you is child. So while it is a difficult job for you, it is equally difficult job for them to manage their learning, manage their assessment, manage their social profile to ensure that there is a recognition there. So, so understand there are double whammy there. Your difficult time for the teacher, difficult time for that child. So one of the things which we found, and it's happening in many jurisdictions, that is there a way that teacher in that or a parent in that scenario actually walk up to the child rather than asking children to walk to you. Let's understand what's happening in their life. So lots of things are happening in the mental side, lots of things are happening, in their assessment, etc. And at the same time, the teachers are really going through all of these changes. Is there a way that we can actually walk that distance to the child? Now, what do I mean by walk that distance to the child? Now, often technology, what it does is that it actually creates a divide. If I don't know technology and some children ask me technology, a normal reaction, this guy is smarter than me, I'm not going to go there now. Let's just get him what he wants to do. I have seen these behaviors being presented through the papers in many of the countries and many of the private schools. They are now saying that teachers decided not to interact with few children because somehow the children was in a certain space. 35 children in that classroom, 5 of them got isolated, compounded with the mental issues, compounded with the societal pressure to do well in the child you've lost. They're gone. You can never recover that. And the compounding impact of it. So every class, I imagine what's the society. Where are we leading? What is going to happen? So I think it is not, as I said, I defined the profile of a persona of a teacher is not easy at all. But the child or the children who are growing are also not easy at this point in time. So understand, both sides. And who's going to help in terms of making it better? The only tool they are making up, both of them, are that Viber and WhatsApp and then Instagram. Now you could ignore that I will not go there. My son, and rightfully so, son doesn't really normally when teenagers don't talk to father. They kind of have contested. My son was not talking to me for a long time, and I think not talking as in real collaboration. I said, what is it which I can do? And this is a personal experience, and I'm citing. I said, what is it which I can do to make sure that at least the first level conversation is done? So I created a profile on Clash of Clans. He was playing Clash of Clans that time. I said, can I really become a somebody else and see what he's doing? It was a difficult task for me to learn that Clash of Clans. But as it rolled forward, I understand that he started telling me that there is one guy who's coming from nowhere and trying to nudge me on things which I don't want him to do. Then I started collaborating with me. One day I started having a conversation. I said, no, that one guy was my personal profile, and I told him that. So that's really what walking that distance is suggested to happen in the future. So I think, both sides will have to do their bit, but there is more to be done from our side because generally we are adults, we have care to take, we have to make sure that the children really grows well. So therefore that distance needs to be traveled. Now, I made an effort based on various papers and things which are done by McKinsey and others. Those skills, and some of it in our lunchtime conversation were happening. What are those skills which has also been spoken in SDGs and UN and many of those discussions? I just tried making sure that can I list some of it and can I. It's not final, it is not directive, it is not something which is for us to follow. It is something which is suggested by many. So, just to say that your inner self, do you know who you are? So being yourself as a part of your culture or a part of your foundational skill, which can really be, and within that, lots been spoken about that this is being yourself is also do not start with the fear, but start with the open mindset. Think about positive things. So that's just one skill which is really important for us to, sort of start thinking about. How do we do that within our own set of, curriculum structure? That we need to look at, but I think that's one important thing. The second thing is often we talk about language, literature, and various sort of elements of numeracy, literacy. But one of the things which I think is important for us is that as a school or a teacher or a as a government policy maker, are we creating structure in a way that the children are thinking, right? So thinking is that don't make a very cognitively heavy intervention. Let that cognitive side be lesser. It is a very courageous topic, and I remember what you would talk about is that how do you deal with the assessment side, right? So you have to do the IGCSE and you have to make sure that you get into the best colleges, but at the same time you also need to do more thinking. But it's been again and again, and many countries have given the example to us, that a society which does well is not because they've done very well in the assessment side, or they've done very well, and that really changes the whole idea of that society. When the child is thinking about the climate, The child is thinking about each other. Right? These are kind of elements which are thinking, can I care, can I give, can I, sort of look at what's happening around me. So that's important aspect. The what is related is to relate with what's happening around, right? Your ability to say that am I close to the other child or not? Can I go up to him and say, are you okay? Are you doing well? Or can I go up to her and say, are you doing, that's connecting to the society. And that just really came very, when this was talking about that school that started as a community school. Roll back 40 years, 4 decades back, that school was a community school. Now that community school was that community school. We knew who is the other child in the other class. What's their name? What do they do? What do they eat? What do they play? Many of that is really now because of what you started doing is really that connect is going away. That's another skill which we need to foster and make an active effort. I don't think teachers, the policy will do that. The policy is highlights of what to be done. And I think I've been very actively involved in your sort of framework, which is most evolvent. Go back in many of my conversations, not which conversation I have done in its keynotes such as that, but I have not cited Maldives to say how progressive that society is. Why? Because you have care in your view as a society. So that if you amplify it and make sure it becomes the you, and I think somebody was saying that you can become a benchmark like the other countries. The smaller countries saying that Bhutan can say, it's a national NHP to an NH GDP. Why can't this country be the benchmark to say that we don't teach high-stake assessment, we teach how to connect. Come and connect in Maldives. That's it. Our positioning is come connect. We'll share what the connecting is. That's your positioning in the market. The fourth thing is to be able to collaborate. It's again connect, collaborate, communication. These are things which have been spoken. But in a manifestation, if I would look at what are the elements of that communication? See, you always talk about legacy, right? It's past what we have created. Legacy is trust, and educators are legacy, and trust is at the core of it. And if you do not have that trust, how do you start collaborating? I know whether I will present paper and then the paper which I presented could be quoted somewhere else. I don't have a trust. How do I want to go and speak everything to her and say, come and collaborate with me and nature? And if I don't do it, it will not go to the next level. It will not evolve. So that's another skill which we need to, and above all of what we talk about is really the skills to do that. The acting is a very, very important skill to be actually done. And the acting skill is ability to do all what I've talked about is with mindset change. That I will continuously do this, right? That's my mindset. I will not stop it. I will keep doing again and again till I perfect it. Is really what, these are the kind of things which I think clearly coming out, and I tried actually pointing to say that many of these are very important. This was an important slide for the collaboration. So now catalyzing transformation is the responsibility somehow given to all of us in a time which is loaded with a lot of unknowns, but you transform. How do I transform? So many things I don't know, but go ahead and transform. So therefore, opportunity in education throws us to say, keep that technology in center and get all the stakeholders together and try see the positive of that technology, which gives you information pervasiveness, which gives you information at click, which gives you with the Dirago 1010 Mbps connectivity at any point in time, at any device, anywhere. Get that to an ecosystem of teacher, parents, and learner. Because the parents are asking, I need my child this, I need this to be delivered. Teachers really have that 5 minutes to deliver. Learners are going through so much in their life. Can you keep leveraging, or can you leverage the technology to get this ecosystem, helping to create something which we really want to create as part of our school ecosystem? Again, this is a very, very dear to me. That machine and man discussion is very often we hear, but nobody can replace teacher. Nobody, never. Many data, many statistics have suggested every other things can be replaced, but the compassion, the empathy, the care, what teacher does really is not replaceable at all. So here is what, this is the last few slides of mine, that is there a way that we can work together to redefine teachers, right? And teaching system, the way we can teach. And this is not another policy intervention. I mean, Minister is sitting here, you might say that a lot of what I'm suggesting is to be done at the policy. No. Is there a way at one particular atoll or a school, we can think about teaching being a community, teaching being collaboration, teaching being parents, teaching being students. Leave the curriculum for a moment aside. That foundational year, if you can bring in this thinking, collaborating, connecting, all that kind of mindset, and try leveraging technology, that's really perhaps can change the way lots what has been spoken about, and a lot of uncertain things which we're talking about, can actually be, sort of led to. So I'm sort of, this is the last slide, and so technology can only be a tool, right? It cannot be, no matter ChatGPT can give me that output which I wanted to get, but it cannot, it's just a tool, right? And as long as we use that tool to get, to benefit, give us that benefit, it can help us to create something which we can really, we're struggling in terms of creating a platform to deal with many challenges in the society today. So, again, the teacher, technology, collaboration, with working through that ecosystem is really what the future is. I want to end this session by saying that as a country, you, not only the fact that you are the highest literacy rate country in this region, right? So that's a pride to you. As a country, you are a very caring country, and I come with a lot of, not because Minister sitting here, First Lady sitting here, and I'm saying this, I have seen you very closely, and I see other countries very closely, and I look at data. You're a caring society, you're an emotional society, you're an empathetic society, and technology has come to help you. That MBPS has come to help you. Try putting that within those skills which I have actually suggested, and add those up to deal with that learners and teachers challenges. I can tell you a revolution. You can create an identity for this nation, and that identity was going to be different, distinctly different than anybody else, and that identity is the one which will lead the very chaotic geopolitical situation where we are in, which is an identity of Maldives. I think that's what we should all really work towards. So thank you so much. I have a few questions which I think you'll answer. Thank you so much for basically listening to me. You have.
So thank you, Ratnesh. As usual, completely mesmerized. I wish we could have a little longer while. I think it was a beautiful balance of enlightening information and great oratory, like we expect out of you. Is there any question to start off with? Because I have quite a few of them. Do we start off with a question from the audience? Any question? Yeah? Okay.
Thank you. I think it was really relevant that you brought up about open AI, about GPT-3. If you look globally, now there is a trend where students are using GPT-3, like you said, to generate essays or to complete their homeworks and assignments. Should it be something that we should welcome into the classroom and use it for the advancement of education, or should it be something we should be resilient about? Or how do you think the future of assessment is going to change with new GPT-3 and similar AI-based tools?
Can you hear me?
Jairam.
Can you can listen to me from here? Can you hear me? Okay. Now I think the question which you're asking is very clear. I think that's the kind of question. That's the kind of question which is really not only you, everybody is asking, every jurisdiction, every education jurisdiction, as to how do I use the information, how do I use the tools to sort of define my classroom curriculum assessment And I think the element of knowledge is not going anywhere. So that is that assessment will be there. The form of that assessment can change. The way we can use these tools and information is more curative. And can you kind of guide these tools, working alongside with the learner to make sure that gives you the best output? So if your objective of your curriculum that I will have all facets, the child becomes more caring, more societal, more humane, more also higher order thinker, then I think all of that needs to be used. These ChatGPT and other tools need to be used to put that as a part of the assessment. So the form of assessment needs to change definitely. Can I put some of it as part of the assessment? Absolutely yes. Can I change the assessment or can I stop the assessment? That will not happen. That knowledge cannot be stopped. Knowledge will always be there because the society is not stopping that as well, right? You will have other countries saying that, in your country there is no assessment. How are you actually judging the students? So that's not going to stop, but I think you can use these tools to sort of help create a better assessment based on those levers which we talk about, in humane as a lever, the social as a lever, the collaboration as a lever, that those can be done. Thank you. Any other question?
Any other question? Kindly introduce yourself, please, before asking.
Good afternoon. So good morning. My name is Yusra. I'm Minister of Education. My question is technology empowering the teachers or overwhelming them?
Can I hear some answer from the audience itself? Because there are lots of answers there. And I'm sure there are a lot of people, perhaps Minister can answer this question too, right? Should I pass on the message?
Thank you, Ratinesh. Thank you, Yusra. I believe most of us would say it's overwhelming, but I think it's both. It's overwhelming us, plus it's empowering us too. But we need to learn how to use it correctly in a balanced manner.
Sure. Yeah, I think good round of applause for that great answer which we have. So I think the ability to use the technology in a way that can become assisting. So it is overwhelming because that ChatGPT was overwhelming for me to download. Should I download or should I not? Put 3 days task. But finally I said I have to catch the bull by the horn. Let me do this. Let's just see what it is. I think that catching bull by the horn is important for a teacher. If you don't do it, that child who's sitting in the classroom would come and say, ma'am, I've done something. This is how it works. And then you wonder why I don't know about it. So that learning has to happen. And that is not a policy learning course. That's a learning you will have to do it. The teachers will have to do their own learning as well. The educators will have to do that. So lifelong learning is really what the new age really asking for you. So I was very pleased with when the First Lady was suggesting few books for us to kind of go through or read. All those are mindfulness, etc. These are all very, sort of progressive thinking that, you cannot stop now. It's not that just one degree of teaching and you're done with it and that curriculum. I think that lifelong learning is really where things will happen, but I think it can only enable.
Thank you, Ratinesh. I just wanted to add something more. Our COVID experience. When we actually transitioned from our normal mode of teaching to online modes of teaching, our teachers were a bit reluctant at first, but we were really impressed by the way that they actually came up with very innovative ideas. The teleclass sessions that they prepared, they were excellent. Everybody was commenting on that. That plus all the creative lessons, some things that we don't even think about, they came up with all these creative ideas. So at first it can be overwhelming, but we need to give them the push. I remember the first time we asked them to go and record a teleclass session. Some actually were a bit reluctant, but we pushed them. They went there and they performed like actors. It was really excellent. So I think we have that in us. We need that push.
Absolutely. For all of you being a real actor of changing that time of change, it wasn't easy. You would have a screen where parent is sitting next to the child and saying, is the teacher even know how to teach? Right? That was a very real time teaching, and there was checking all our skills that parents would never teach and never understand teaching. But he had a right to ask that question, that are you teaching the world? So I think we've all gone through that, and that when it came in a very difficult time. It wasn't, technology never meant to be adopted like the way we adopted. It just came in as a scenario and things really changed. So I think it's been a great character of a teacher manifested in this time of COVID, and I think that continues. It is sometimes really, and I just want to share this with you, sometimes when I go to the same teacher, you see, I'm worried. The same teacher is changing. I'm worried that enough of technology are having a mental issue with my child. So how caring teacher, play that teacher that I will teach you online, but now also saying my child is going through a little bit of mental thing, I need to be careful about it. So that's what the teacher for you, right? And that's what you are for that student or ecosystem which you are building. So I think, Jega, I'm done with the questions. If you have one or two,
That's an overwhelmingly good answer. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ratnesh. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to go next?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. Actually, during the COVID days, we have seen ministers' leadership in technology-led, very innovative leadership. I still remember at first we were panicked. We don't know how to give access to education to kids. And then we had several meetings, and then it's minister who suggested, why don't we start teaching TV? At first we had no idea at all how could we do that. And then as minister said, I still remember we have brought teachers to Iskandar School Hall and we made a studio there, and they couldn't do that. At first they discontinued, and then they went home and again they came back. Finally they all developed their skill of presenting. Very good, and then teaching online and all those things. We have seen great leadership from the president, from the minister. Immediately teleclass, followed by teaching online, providing data to students and teachers, and a lot of things happens. While most of countries, students were at home. In the Maldives, it was only roughly 60 days at home, but no days without education. So I just want to mention it as we are talking about the technology and leadership. I think we, on behalf of our team, we should mention what Minister has done. We should do that. A very big round of applause everyone for Minister.
That's a caring
Thank you,
leadership,
sir.
that's a caring teacher for you. She's a teacher, right? She's a teacher at heart. So I think even as a minister, as a leader, so I think the first thing which goes in her mind is that, what's that child? Where is that person, the child going? And I think that's how the objective got defined.
Yeah, actually, I mentioned it because this has not been known to people what's inside, what we all were doing there. So we have to make people aware of that, how we manage it and all those things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much,
We
sir.
get lots of questions being answered, so you can keep one or two questions if you ask.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think I don't want to really bore with my, I think enough has been spoken. One or two questions.
Sure.
Any other questions in the audience?
And
With
Shubhada
lots of-
is very keen. Should we go
Yeah,
with
so-
the person next to me, please? Okay.
Yeah, so one or two more questions that I think that we should really have. Sasuri, if you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because we are talking about technology, and people who know me would also know how passionate I am about technology. And we are, all of us, we are talking about the positive side of technology. And then I just wanted to mention this, and I think that is the spirit of the question itself, whether technology is a burden or an opportunity, empowering or burdening us. So while we were evaluating the papers we received for this conference, there was this very interesting paper about balancing technology as it is burdening us. Like day after day, we are depending. Our dependence on technology is increasing and increasing. So he was arguing about the importance of bringing a balance. So what are your thoughts about bringing a balance, especially for teachers? I mean, how far should we go? Like, our passion can lead us to like nowhere, and that is what it shows. Like it is getting unlimited as far as we see. So, what are your thoughts about this? Bringing a balance.
Shurda ma'am was sitting next to me, and I can see three gadgets. One was the one which you switched on, the second was the phone, and the third one was me. I said, how are you managing with all these things? I'm just one. She said, I'm a technology native. And so she's managing with it and asking this question. So that's very interesting that, so it's like, ma'am, I think it's like saying that you pick up, Instagram reel or Google, YouTube, this thing, and you start flipping it. As an adult, we start flipping, when you stop, right? It's so overbearing that you keep flipping it for a lifetime. I think the teacher knows that well, that when do I need to say now? It's done. It is my mind, my cognitive side will come in. I don't think any policy or any framework defines that you need to use as much technology. Nobody defines it. There is no way that it could define it. I think it's up to each of us as a leader, or educator, or a teacher to say that I will limit it because it actually hinges on thinking side of it at some point and you stop thinking. So is there a way that I can limit it to a level that I can manage it well? Get the best from it. Get all of that information organized, calendarized, etc. Then sit with your mind to say that I think you cannot stop it. It's tsunami. I mean, it's just not going to be stopped. Do what you want to do. Children are really native. Right? So that is not stopping it, it's just that you need to take a step out and say, and start balancing it by making it very advocate that how you do independent thinking. Create another room and say, device, David, go think. Spend some time, do some spiritual thinking, mindfulness, do that. You start advocating some of these kind of thinking, you start people finding a best of both the world. In absence of that being not done, then we're only talking about it. I think execution becomes, the acting becomes a very important side of it. And I think that's a difficult task. Educators and the teachers of today need to do it. It is a generational change which we keep talking about. We have a job to say that get the right balance for that child. It's really important. We get last question. I think
Thank you, Rajneesh. I really am very keen on asking a question. Should I go ahead? I know there's so many in the audience as well.
There is one question here. So
Oh.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for giving me a chance. I'm Shafiqa. As a teacher, I'm also very much interested in knowing how this technology is taking us. Every time this industrial revolution comes, education changes. So now this is the time of industrial revolution for emerged and use high level of these digital connections, Internet of Things. My question is, I'm very much concerned how the classroom setting would be in future. Will it be the same as now? And how the teacher training should go along with this
Passionate she is that she asked this question. This is a good round of applause for the teacher asking such a brilliant question. And I think I don't have a real answer for it, but I can attempt to say a few things, which is one important thing. I think we've talked about that in the lunchtime. That I do not call 3 revolution an industry revolution. Let me quote this today, and I will quote it again and again. Those were linear evolution of the society. We were blinded eyes to continue to exploit the climate to the hilt of it and make sure we call that as 1, 2, 3 industry revolution. It was destruction of this climate, as to say that in the least of my format. We can say that we created something which is causing so much of pollution and so much of carbon, and which is making us our existential issue with the 1.5% degree going, and you're melting as an earth to a non-entity. So it was not, for me, it wasn't a revolution first. Second, if it is a real revolution, it's happening now, and that's happening towards the eastern side of the world. Right? Clearly, you're sitting in the eastern side of the world, and it is really where the revolution is. So therefore, to context of what you're saying, the eastern side of the leadership in a country such as ours, we're going to teach empathy, we're going to teach mindfulness, teach social skills, teach, many of this in a way that not reversing technology, but embracing technology or helping them take technology to help all of these skills embedded as part of a new way of teaching, learning, or a curriculum which can be done. I think that's really where the world is going, and everybody's talking about it. So the whole world is looking up to you to say, tell us what needs to be done. Right? So I think as a teacher, I guess clearly it can actually be seen as a tool in a limited way to get you to do things which is knowledge cognitive side, but at the same time also look at other layers of the social mental balances to be actually augmented. So I think that's where it can be used. I don't know whether I answered the question, but I think I made it.
Thank you so much, Ratnesh. I think there are so many questions yet to be answered, but I guess we have to be cognizant of time.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Ratnesh, for this wonderful, wonderful discussion. I think this is a mark of a successful discussion where the questions don't end, although the time ends. But thank you so much for this enlightening discussion. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.